Mindvine Studios presents.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into something pretty fundamental, something humans have known for ages, really. But somehow modern life has sort of pushed it aside. I'm talking about that deep, deep connection between our mind and our body.
Yeah, it's this wisdom that's, almost ancient, but now science is actually catching up and confirming it in pretty powerful ways. It really challenges how we usually think about being sick or being healthy.
Absolutely. We tend to draw this line, don't we? Like physical problems over here, emotional stuff over there, separate boxes.
Exactly. As if they're totally unrelated. But what we're seeing from the research, from the sources we've looked at, is that it's just not the case. Our life experiences, our feelings, our relationships, they're all tangled up with our physical health. Way more than most people think.
Right. And the core idea, the thing we really want to explore in this deep dive, is how our body often signals no, like puts the brakes on, when our minds are maybe trying to push through, ignore things, or maybe aren't even aware of the real issue. It's like the body keeps the score, you could say.
Yeah. A fundamental shift in understanding, really.
And just to be clear, our goal here isn't to, hand out medical advice or quick fixes. Not at all. What we want to do is give you a shortcut, kind of, to being really well-informed, pull out those surprising facts, those insights that help you see how maybe unconscious ways of living, things we don't even realize we're doing, can contribute to getting sick.
And how understanding that might actually spark some real change, some personal transformation from the inside out.
Exactly.
Okay, so if mind and body are truly one system, where does this link show up most clearly? Let's start with something universal. Stress, that invisible weight. We usually think of stress as, the big deadline, the argument, the obvious stuff.
Right, the acute stressors.
But what about chronic stress? The kind that simmers under the surface even when we think we're coping fine, or even when we label it good stress. That's a key point. How does that low-grade, maybe even unconscious stress actually affect our bodies physically? The sources give some really striking examples, like medical students during final exams. Their immune systems actually showed suppression. And get this, the effect was strongest in the students who felt the most lonely.
Wow. So isolation makes the physical impact of stress even worse.
It seems so. And it's not just about catching colds more easily.
Okay.
There's evidence that stress literally slows down healing. Think about Alzheimer's caregivers, people under immense constant strain. Their wounds, on average, took 9 days longer to heal compared to people not under that kind of stress.
9 days longer. That's significant.
It really is.
Yeah.
And another study, this one with dental students, they made small wounds on the roof of their mouths. Those wounds healed much faster during vacation than they did during exam periods.
So the body's like, nope, can't deal with repairs right now. Too much going on.
Kind of, yeah. It highlights the body's built-in stress response system. We call it the HPA axis.
HPA, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Bit of a mouthful.
It is. But think of it like your internal emergency response team. Your brain perceives a threat could be real, imagined, conscious, unconscious. The hypothalamus sends a signal to the pituitary gland, which tells the adrenal glands, okay, release the hormones, like cortisol.
Ah, cortisol, the famous stress hormone. It gets such a bad rap. Is it always bad for us?
That's a great question. Because no, initially it's actually helpful. It's adaptive. Cortisol dampens down that immediate stress reaction, tones down the immune system a bit.
Right.
Useful if you're, say, running from a tiger. You don't need inflammation then.
Right, focus on survival.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the problem comes when that system stays switched on. Chronically high cortisol. That's damaging. We're talking increased risk of intestinal ulcers, bone thinning, especially seen in studies with depressed postmenopausal women, for example.
And it's not just hormones acting alone, is it? It's this whole interconnected network.
Precisely. It's what we call the P&I system, psychoneuroimmunoendocrinology.
Okay, say that again slowly.
Psychoneuroimmunoendocrinology. Psychology, nervous system, immune system, endocrine system, hormones, they're all constantly talking to each other. Your thoughts, your feelings, they directly influence your physical state through this network.
It's incredible. Mind and body aren't just connected. They're basically one integrated system.
Absolutely. And what's really potent in triggering this stress response isn't just, physical danger. It's psychological stuff. Feeling uncertain, being in conflict, lacking control, even just not having enough information about something stressful.
Those internal states are powerful biological triggers.
Hugely powerful.
Which leads us perfectly into our next section, doesn't it? The silent self-emotional repression and its physical manifestations. It seems like a key piece missing for a lot of us is something called emotional competence. What does that actually mean? Is it just being in touch with your feelings?
It's more than that, I think. Emotional competence is, it's really the skill, the ability to first recognize what you're feeling, what you desire, and then, crucially, to respond to those feelings and desires appropriately in a way that actually serves you.
Instead of just ignoring them or letting them run riot.
Exactly. But our society often gives us mixed messages, doesn't it? Don't be so emotional. We sometimes idealize people who seem purely logical, like, Mr. Spock.
Right. Stoicism is often prized.
And that can lead to people just not developing this crucial skill set. They don't learn how to handle their inner world effectively.
So if we lack this emotional competence, how does that actually bridge over into serious physical illness? What's the mechanism there?
Well, the connection seems to be that chronic stress, the kind that underlies many illnesses, often flares up when our emotional competence is compromised. And often, the person doesn't even realize it consciously. It plays out in their life story. Take Natalie, for instance. She had multiple sclerosis.
And her MS flare-ups, they lined up directly with massive life stresses, didn't they? Her husband getting cancer, his death, but also her inability to say no to rest. She actually said, "The nurse in me won't allow me to stop."
Her body was screaming, stop, but her internal programming, her identity as a caregiver, wouldn't let her listen.
Wow.
Or Veronique, another woman with MS. Her story is, it's quite shocking, actually. Severe symptoms, numbness, pain spreading up her body, and she just disregarded them, said it was cool, she couldn't feel anything.
She didn't tell anyone. Why?
Didn't want to upset her parents. She admitted she treated herself far worse than she'd ever treat anyone else.
That's a profound lack of self-care.
It is. And later, she unpacked some of the underlying stresses. Not necessarily bad stress in the typical sense, but things like years of pressure from her adoptive mother to find her birth family, which she didn't want to do. Discovering traumatic details about her conception, financial worries, relationship breakups.
Just a constant undercurrent of pressure and unresolved issues.
Exactly. And the advice she eventually got was to become her own hero, to develop that inner strength, that self-assertion.
It's a recurring theme, isn't it? The body sending signals that the mind just overrides or ignores.
Absolutely. Think about Jacqueline Dupre, the cellist.
Yeah.
Died so young from MS.
On stage, she was pure passion, completely uninhibited, but apparently her private life was much more stifled.
Yes. It suggested her music, especially playing the Elgar Concerto, became this outlet for all the emotions she couldn't express otherwise: pain, intensity, even rage.
So the music became the voice for her repressed self.
That's the interpretation, a sort of textbook illustration, as one source put it, of the stress caused by emotional repression. The body ultimately bears the brunt.
And it's not just MS, is it? This pattern shows up across different conditions.
Oh, definitely. Consider Ellen. Diagnosed with esophageal cancer, non-smoker, non-drinker, worked incredibly long hours, 11 hours a day, 7 days a week. He called it good stress.
Good stress.
He said it distracted him from the bad stress, which was a lack of intimacy, a real disconnect in his marriage.
So the workaholism was a coping mechanism, a way to avoid facing the emotional pain.
Seems so. And he admitted he never said no to anything. He traced that back to his childhood, feeling like nothing was good enough for his mother. Always trying to please, never feeling validated.
Another example of not being able to set boundaries or prioritize oneself.
Then there's Laura, former dance teacher, diagnosed with ALS and breast cancer.
ALS, that's incredibly debilitating.
Extremely. Yet, even with severe symptoms, she felt she couldn't say no to running her bed and breakfast. Felt too guilty.
Where did that guilt come from?
Her childhood pattern. Her mother died young, and Laura became the caregiver for her younger siblings. She resented missing out on her own dreams like ballet. So this lifelong pattern of duty over desire, responsibility over self-care. Her body eventually just said no in the most dramatic way.
It's heartbreaking.
And Jimmy, with malignant melanoma, everyone described him as easygoing, laid back, relaxed, the classic nice guy.
But that wasn't the whole picture.
His wife saw a deep sadness underneath, and he carried a secret about his father, something he felt he couldn't share. That happy face was a mask.
A coping mechanism again, hiding the real emotions.
Precisely. And Angela, with colon cancer, her body literally forced her to stop. Major bleeding started.
When she couldn't quit her job.
Exactly. She hated her job as an auditor, felt trapped by fear of judgment, fear of being seen as unreliable if she took sick leave. It was only after the diagnosis, when she started talking things through, that she realized her gut feeling was right. Her job, Revenue Canada, felt like the source of the illness. Her body said no when her mind felt it couldn't.
And Jason, the young man with type 1 diabetes.
His story illustrates something called enmeshment, where family boundaries are blurred, especially between parent and child.
Like no clear sense of individual self.
Yeah, often the parent is overly involved, overly controlling, maybe living vicariously through the child. In Jason's case, his mother was constantly trying to manage his health, his diabetes regimen.
Understandable concern, maybe, but...
But it crossed a line into control. And during a seizure, he actually cried out, "Let go!" A desperate plea for autonomy. His body was expressing what he struggled to articulate consciously.
These stories are just, wow, they're so powerful. And they really hammer home how these patterns, often starting early in life, can echo through our health decades later.
They really do. It's a heavy thing to consider how much our past shapes our present biology.
Which brings us nicely to our third segment, the intergenerational echo, how our past shapes our present health.
Right. And this ties into the work of molecular biologist Bruce Lipton. He talks about the biology of belief.
Biology of belief. What does that mean exactly?
Well, Lipton explains that our cells, kind of like us as whole organisms, operate primarily in one of two modes, either defense or growth.
Defense or growth, okay.
And crucially, they can't really be in both modes fully at the same time. It's one or the other.
So if our early life experiences, especially if there's chronic stress or lack of safety, constantly signal danger,
then our cells get programmed at a molecular level for defense. The perception that the world is hostile or unsafe gets embedded in our biology. This forms our unconscious biology of belief, shaping how we react to everything later on.
like setting a default mode to threat response.
Kind of, yeah. And this programming is profoundly influenced by our earliest relationships.
Because we're fundamentally social creatures, right? Connection isn't optional for us.
Not at all. We evolved needing strong emotional bonds for survival. Our whole neurochemistry is geared towards social connection. Think about a baby, its internal state, its heart rate, hormones, nervous system. It's all directly regulated by the relationship with the caregiver.
So parental love isn't just nice to have, it's biologically necessary.
Absolutely. It's a biological condition for healthy development, both physiologically and psychologically.
And what happens if that connection is flawed? The sources mention proximate separations. That's not about physical distance.
No, exactly. It's when the parent is physically there, but emotionally unavailable. Or maybe sending confusing signals, love 1 minute, rejection the next.
That inconsistency must be incredibly stressful for a child.
It is. And these early experiences literally shape the neural circuits in the brain. They create patterns for how we approach relationships later in life. We might unconsciously seek out situations or partners that recreate those early stressful dynamics.
Repeating the past without even realizing it.
And it's not just inside the family unit. We need to look at the broader societal context, too.
How so?
Well, think about modern pressures. Often both parents need to work long hours. Maybe kids spend less time with consistently present, nurturing adults. And society often emphasizes, well, usefulness, productivity, what you do rather than who you are.
So people feel valued only for their output.
It can certainly create that pressure, which reinforces patterns of self-denial, of pushing ourselves too hard, ignoring our own needs to be useful. Remember Maury Schwartz from Tuesdays with Maury? He had ALS. He felt this need to prove that dying wasn't useless.
Yeah, I remember that.
The point isn't that sick people need to find ways to be productive. The deeper, more troubling point is why society makes us feel our inherent worth depends on being useful in the first place.
That's a really challenging thought. How deeply those external values can get internalized and potentially make us sick.
It's a complex web for sure.
So facing all this, the stress, the repressed emotions, the echoes from the past, how do we move forward? How do we start to heal? Our final segment is called The Path Forward, Embracing Negative Thinking for Healing, which sounds a bit contradictory. Negative thinking for healing.
It does sound counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Okay.
Because we hear so much about the power of positive thinking. But this isn't about being pessimistic or dwelling on the bad. It's about courage. It's the courage to look honestly at what isn't working in our lives, what we've been ignoring, what our body is screaming no to.
Right. Because sometimes that relentless positivity can actually be a defense mechanism, can't it? A way to avoid facing difficult truths or be stemming from old hurts.
Exactly. It can be a form of denial. So when illness strikes, or even just a diagnosis, it can serve as this unavoidable wake-up call.
An invitation, maybe even a demand to finally look inward and listen.
Precisely. And this leads to a framework for doing that work, sometimes called the 7 A's of healing.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the first A?
Awareness. This is fundamental. It's about developing the capacity to constantly tune in to your internal state, trusting your gut feelings, recognizing those subtle and not so subtle signals from your body that your mind might be dismissing.
Like realizing that maybe pain isn't just a nuisance, but a message.
Yes. Sometimes, when our usual ways of perceiving are shut down, pain becomes a kind of secondary mode of perception. It forces us to pay attention.
Okay, awareness. What's next?
Acceptance. This is about facing reality as it is, without judgment. And importantly, dropping the double standards. Are you much harsher on yourself than you'd ever be on a friend going through the same thing?
That requires real self-compassion.
It does. Then comes anger.
Anger. That seems like a tricky one. We're often told anger is bad.
Right. But this is about healthy anger, not uncontrolled rage or destructive lashing out. Healthy anger is described as the energy Mother Nature gives us to stand forward on our own behalf and say, I matter.
So it's about boundary setting, self-respect.
Exactly. It's empowering energy that respects yourself and others. Very different from repressed anger simmering inside, or anger used defensively to hide vulnerability.
Okay. Awareness, acceptance, anger. What follows?
Autonomy. This is about developing an internal sense of control, an inner compass, defining what you truly want, what your limits are, separate from what others expect or demand. Finding your own sovereignty.
Getting clear on your own needs and boundaries.
And that leads naturally to assertion.
Which is different from autonomy, how?
Autonomy is the inner knowing. Assertion is the outward expression. It's declaring to yourself and to the world who you are and what you stand for. It's moving away from defining your worth by constant doing or achieving and grounding it in simply being.
Being, not just doing. I like that.
Yeah. And the 6A brings us back to something crucial we discussed earlier, attachment.
Revisiting the need for connection.
Yes. Re-emphasizing that fundamental human need for genuine, nurturing relationships. Learning how to build and maintain healthy bonds, giving and receiving care authentically.
And the 7th.
The 7th is affirmation. This kind of flows from living the other principles. It's about reinforcing that sense of self-worth that comes from this deeper alignment, this more authentic way of being.
Awareness, acceptance, anger, autonomy, assertion, attachment, affirmation. That's quite a journey.
It really is.
So for you listening, what does this all mean? Taking this path, doing this deep self-inquiry, maybe embracing things that feel negative at first, it sounds really hard, especially if you're not used to tuning into feelings or even recognizing your own needs.
It absolutely is challenging, no doubt about it. But the sources we looked at really emphasize that this kind of work, this clear-headed, compassionate appraisal of the most important relationships in one's life, is essential. It's essential for lightening that psychological load, which in turn can prevent further illness or help in healing. It's tough, but the potential reward is immense. True inner freedom.
So we've really covered a lot today in this deep dive, exploring how intricately our minds, our emotions, our histories are woven into our physical health, and seeing how truly our bodies do say no when our authentic selves, our real needs, get pushed aside.
Yeah, and the invitation now really is for you to start your own journey of awareness. Just begin to listen more intentionally to your body's wisdom. It's always communicating, sometimes quietly, sometimes not so quietly.
Because understanding what your body is saying no to, it's not just about dodging illness, is it?
Not at all.
It's about coming back into alignment with who you truly are, reclaiming that inner wisdom that's already there. So the final thought to leave you with is this. What profound messages might your body be trying to send you right now?